Sudney.
Oh, are you serious?
You have to redo the whole thing.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports War. And we are back. We got the full crew in the house. That is what it's all about. The Yankees, out of any team in the league, are the best equipped to handle a blow like this.
I think there is a higher power at play here. He's due law of averages. That dude is the ultimate scrub. It's trash. Yeah. Every person you have in there is fucking trash.
Next game, you're going to see a big performance. You can see it in the end of the game, and I'm just totally stoked and excited for this.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Port. And once again, it is the Tony and Barnes show. How are we, sir?
Oh, man, it's a beautiful Monday. It was a beautiful Sunday. I'm super pumped to be here. How are you, Brian?
Pretty good. A little dried off, from the confines of Yankee Stadium last night with that little monsoon hurricane.
Oh,
that
boy.
was tough making the way to the train. And, we'll obviously get to baseball, but just another great weekend for the Yankees, other than, of course, Judge not getting number 61. But it's all about the team, man. And right now, like I just mentioned to you, Yankees on the cusp of a American League East division championship after a 4-game sweep of the Boston Red Sox. But, of course, on Monday, all Monday morning quarterbacks. So let's go to the world of the National Football League.
6 for 101, 2 touchdowns. Uh-oh. To Evans! Touchdown, Tampa Bay! How about that throw? Sam Darnold blasted! Oh my goodness, did he take a hit? In trouble once! Brings him down! Loft one for Odell Beckham Jr. Got it down! Touchdown!
Another crazy week in the NFL, and I guess prefer as a question. So
oh, yes. Real quick, he goes, hey, fellas, your thoughts on NFL changing the Pro Bowl?
The Pro Bowl doesn't matter. So I guess in a way, those skills contests, I have to admit, no matter what sport we're talking about, I've always liked, I don't know about you, Tony. I mean, you always are been a derby guy. I think a little bit into the three-point contest. For basketball, and I know you obviously like the hockey, different stuff that they do. The All-Star game, correct?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
But yeah, I know at the end of the
Pro
day,
Bowl's so whack.
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's all about the game on the field, and I think yesterday was definitely an odd Sunday. Stuff you didn't expect to happen, and then there were some stuff that you kind of had written down that went that way, and one of those was the Cincinnati Bengals 27, New York Jets 12. So here we go again with the Jets. They fall to 1-2. Obviously, the only win 2 weeks ago, the miraculous comeback there. But Joe Flacco showed why his days as a starting NFL quarterback are over. 28 of 52, 285, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 4 times. And the running game for this one didn't really get going for the Jets. Only combined 20 carries, 76 yards, and 3.8 yards an attempt. You look on the other side of the field, Joe Burrow had no problem carving up the New York Jets secondary. 23 of 36, 275, 3 scores.
Different receivers, Boyd, who had 4 catches for 105 yards, including a 56-yard touchdown. Jamar Chase, actually, only 6 receptions for 29 yards, but he caught a score. And then Samaje Perine had the other touchdown, and the Jets were able to get to Burrow just 2 times. But at the end of the day, I mean, to come into this game, you got Zach Wilson's return around the corner, and you beat the Bengals last year. You wanted to feel more in it, and I don't know if the Jets were ever really exactly in it. I mean, you look at the halftime score. They get a long field goal from Zerline to make it 20-9. And then the second half of this game, they only, convert a field goal, and that's it. Some turnovers that were costly, including a fumble. And I mentioned the 2 Flacco interceptions. So, their AFC North tour will conclude next week when they face the Steelers. And stuff can change between now and then, but it is widely expected that Zach Wilson will make his season debut. But it's just funny. I feel like here we go again with the Jets. We're only 3 weeks in, and it's like we find ourselves at a crossroads. If Wilson plays well, but they lose next week, they'll be saying, all right, well, maybe we have something to work with Wilson, but Salah, he's got to start getting more wins. And if they lose, he looks bad, he gets hurt again or something. I mean, you really could see this thing spiraling out of control. And it's just funny. We sit here only a few weeks in and we're having this conversation, and the very negative rhetoric, on the New York sports radio this morning about this after just 1 week ago, that big win. I mean, do you feel that they're over exaggerating, or is it just, we're almost, we're over a quarter or almost a quarter way through year 2 of Robert Saleh, and at the end of the day, you just want to see wins, and he's not producing enough of them? I mean, is that fair to say, or you think it's too early in the season?
I mean, I think Saleh's certainly in a tough position. I mean, look, Flacco threw 2 interceptions, right? But then again, I mean, when you look at the stats, like, I mean, they had, 52 passing attempts. I mean, I feel like
it's only get 285 yards and no touchdowns.
Like if Flacco's not doing well, and like stop running passing plays.
Yeah.
So do like call different plays, try to mix it up. Obviously, I feel like it was just the Bengals game from the very first drive.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Burrow's had time. When he didn't have time, he had quick feet, honestly. I feel like he was very nimble in the pocket. And then that first drive, I think he was like 7 for 8 in passing, and then obviously led to the touchdown. And then they were just on the roll from the get-go. So it's not like your defense is really doing much to kind of change momentum or shift, who's kind of, on top of this game here. So I think it's obviously, like I said, it's tough that Flacco's in there and you're not seeing Zach Wilson, who, I would imagine, this offense is designed around. But it's not just like the quarterback that's the issue right now, So yeah, I feel like it's not really that exaggerated. The Jets could be in trouble here.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I said, I think there is a lot of pressure on them this week. And you look at the Steelers, I mean, they're a mess right now. It looks like Kenny Pickett, in the next couple of weeks, barring anything unforeseen from Mitchell Trubisky, that he'll take over for the Steelers. And they're coming off a disappointing Thursday night football loss to the Browns. They lost to the Patriots, who looked terrible yesterday against the Ravens. If the Steelers, handle the Jets, 30-0, I mean, that's really going to put them in a tough position. So a lot of pressure on them to step up next week. But obviously, when the time comes, we'll definitely discuss it. So just kind of doing a synopsis of all the games from yesterday. We could just kind of run down the scores. I mean, the Bears 23-20 over the Texans. And, I mean, neither of these teams, tight game, obviously 3-point game. You don't really think of either one of them as one of the better teams in the league. And obviously, the Lovie Smith era gets off to a tough start here as they're now 0-2-1. But they let Khalil Herbert, I think he's the second-year running back, run all over them, 20 carries for $157 and 2 scores. And you look at the Bears, widely considered one of the worst teams in the league, really on par with the Jets. And, they're 2-1. The Jets are 1-2, and the sentiment, is completely different, despite them really not throwing the ball much with Justin Fields. Only 8 completions yesterday on 17 attempts, 2 interceptions. But if you're going to run for 281 yards on the ground, you'll find a way to win, and they played solid defense. So I think you got to give, Matt Eberflus credit. And I think the Jets, despite, you look at Garrett Wilson, he had a nice game again yesterday, got injured, but came back again. But it's like, I think they could take a page out of the Bears book and just have that running game instead of your pass game. You can't have a quarterback that you're still developing that doesn't have his full skill set yet, just drop back 50 times. That's not going to work. So I think that's the key for the Jets. And it might be tough. I know, the Steelers are without TJ Watt, but it's like, you got to just establish the run game early. And I think that's why the Bears, find themselves 2-1. But at the end of the day,
where are they going?
I wouldn't be surprised if they win 4 or 5 games, but good story. Nevertheless, to start the season, we'll see if they can maintain it. We saw the Titans 24-22 over the Raiders as they go to 0-3.
So tough,
and
dude.
We're a 2-point conversion away from tying the game late in the fourth quarter. But once again, Derek Carr,
The Raiders,
Josh McDaniels, just don't get the job done. And you look at the offensive numbers. I mean, Carr, 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, did have an interception, only sacked 1 time, but 26 to 44, so that's 18 incompletions. The run game was effective, but only 19 attempts for 96 yards. I think they could have done that a little more, especially earlier in the game before there was a deficit. Mac Hollins, 8 catches, 158 and a touchdown. But I think the big thing here, and he has caught a touchdown in 3 games here, but Devontae Adams, not a big game, not getting the ball a ton. I think he had 2 receptions last week for 12 yards. This week, 5 catches, 36 yards and a touchdown. But I just think for them to go, he's got to have bigger games.
Yeah.
Than that.
So now he was targeted 10 times, just like Hollins.
Mm-hmm. Hollins turned those into 8 catches for 158.
Yeah. So is Adams defended well, or?
I mean, I'm sure to an extent, but at the same time, we saw him be defended well with the Packers. Rodgers able to give him the ball. So I don't think, there's an excuse there. And you were playing I think, a bad Tennessee Titans team. And especially early on, Tannehill looked very, very good. He ended up 19 of 27 for 264. And, he's obviously has a battered up receiving core. I mean, Robert Woods is the number 1 receiver, and he had a decent game, 4 catches, 85 yards. Derrick Henry, I thought, looked pretty good. But then again, you look at it, he had that 124-yard run. You take that away, it's 19 carries for 61 yards. So still not that Derrick Henry. Obviously solid at the goal line. He had the touchdown. But anyway, I mean, the Titans avoid an 0-3 start here. But I'm still, you saw the Colts, and we'll get to that in a second, with a win themselves yesterday, and Jacksonville keep on going. But I'm still not expecting the Titans to compete this year. And I still think Derrick Henry is not the player that he was a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's tough. You mentioned injuries, being used so much, getting kind of bogged down by those injuries and being just sore and not on your game. But I mean, do you think, I don't know. I mean, do you think at this, you don't think at any point this season just kind of picks it up?
No,
not even.
No, because it's like the Raiders. I mean, it's not the top defense in the NFL.
Right.
He should. You think a couple years ago, I'd be surprised if he had 200 yards rushing, Tony. Setting the tone. And I just don't think he instills the fear in the defense that he once did. Unless at the goal line. I think the goal line. I mean, he's your man there. So the Titans get off the schneid. Speaking of another team picking up their first victory, the Colts 20-17 over the Kansas City Chiefs. This one surprised me. The Colts coming from behind here, down 17-13 late, but get a touchdown from Matt Ryan to Lenny Woods with under a minute remaining. And I was just surprised that the Chiefs offense here, struggled as much as they did. I mean, Mahomes only 262. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running game only averaged 2.5 yards a carry on 23 attempts. And it's not like that Jonathan Taylor had a premier game. I mean, he had 21 carries, 71 yards. Ryan, a pretty decent game, but I don't know, kind of a weird spot here. I guess you could say the Colts defense stepped up, and right now, now they're, after it seemed like, the sky's falling, tying the first game against the Texans of all teams, and then getting shut out last week to Jacksonville. I think this was a much-needed win for the Indianapolis Colts, just from a confidence perspective.
Do you think just like Kansas City overlook?
I don't know. I think they just stepped up.
You think the Colts just actually stepped up and Kansas City on their heels?
Yeah, a little bit. And then I mentioned Mahomes arguing with the enemy near the halftime. I mean, definitely could have got a field goal. I understand Harrison Butker's out, so they got Matt Amendola kicking field goals.
Yeah, but what's the worst? You just miss it.
Exactly. So that was a weak move.
Weird.
They easily could have, I think, with Mahomes, easily gotten him a 45-yarder, probably, maybe 50. And it's like, you got to take your chance there. So that was definitely a little odd. But I'm sure, Kansas City, as we've seen before, they'll be just fine. And one could argue possibly the game of the day we saw between the Dolphins and the Bills. And very odd how, the first half, we had 2 touchdowns apiece for each team, 14-14, but the second half only combined for 12 points here. So we look at, the end of the game, some miscues for the Bills, as Allen missed a couple throws. They had a punter punt the ball into the back of an offensive lineman. We had a Tyler Bass missed field goal. And at the end of the day, the Bills fall to the Dolphins 21-19. And you look at the numbers. Josh Allen threw for 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, also ran for 47 yards on the ground. And they're just not able to come away with this one, humming in the first half, slowed down in the second. They knocked 2 out of the game. There's been some controversy about that. He was concussed. How is he allowed to go back in the game? But he grinds it out. They get the win, and all of a sudden, I mean, you look up, and I believe the Miami Dolphins, the Giants play tonight. So the one of 2 undefeated teams already. Here we are in week 3. I mean, that really pops off the page to me.
Did you see Tua getting up?
Yeah,
And everything?
I don't
dude,
get how you get back in the game.
He took like 3 steps and like stumbled to the ground, and then one of his linemen was like holding him up.
Yeah,
Trainer came out and yeah, sure, put him back in. That's absolutely ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
But I guess he's fine, right?
I mean, and obviously, an impressive win for the Dolphins here, for sure. Being able to stop Josh Allen at the end, I think you have to give a lot of credit.
Bless you.
To first-year head coach Mike McDaniel. 3-0 starts a 3-0 start, and I'm sure obviously they have one more matchup this season, but I'm sure these teams could see themselves meeting in the playoffs.
Dude.
And I think it's going to be tightly contested games, and it's amazing what good coaching does. I know 2 of this game, his numbers weren't great, but obviously 6 touchdowns the previous game, but just how much more competent he seems under Mike McDaniel versus Brian Flores. That move playing dividends already. So it was just interesting to see that. We saw the Vikings, defeat the Lions 28-24 with a fourth quarter comeback of their own where they outscored the Lions 14-0. So a nice start to the Kevin O'Connell era. And I think, it's here we go with the coaching again. And, Cousins rebounds from an ugly game last week, 24-41 for 2 scores. And Dalvin Cook 17 for 96 on the ground. I believe he left the game with an injury. And Alexander Madison also had a touchdown. So I think despite this loss, despite 1-2, the Lions are a lot better improved team this year. Definitely had a chance to win this one. And DeAndre Smith got injured, and Jamal Williams, the former Packer, steps up 20 for 87 and 2 scores. You saw, Amon-Ra St. Brown leave the game with an injury. He had 6 catches, 73 yards. So I think this is a team that's going to put up points. I think Jared Goff, looks decent. So I don't think, there's really anything negative to say other than they just couldn't quite come away with this one. But I think the Lions are going to score some points and be in some football games this year.
I couldn't agree more with you. But there's one thing I wanted you to touch upon was how you felt about Jimmy G.
Yeah, so you talk about the game between the
Broncos and the 49ers.
Broncos and the 49ers, and only, Tony, I mean, think about how long the NFL has been around here. Only the second game in NFL history with an 11-10 score.
That's crazy.
You look at this one, and it's kind of a repeated scenario here with Russell Wilson and the Broncos offense struggling. They finally score in the red zone at the end of the game to cement this one, but a lot of field goals, some missed field goals. And I just can't put a finger on why they struggle to score so much when they have so much talent. He was 20 of 33, 184, no touchdowns or interceptions, did scamper for 17 yards on the ground, and they got 58 yards from Williams, 26 yards from Gordon, including that go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. They don't convert on the 2-point conversion. So, I think the story today is more about them than it is the Niners. I know Garoppolo, 18 of 29, 211, a touchdown interception. But I think, Tony, I know you've seen this over the last couple of years too. Garoppolo is always going to be that guy that will do enough to keep you in the game, but he's not going to throw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. So I think this is what you expect from the 49ers. And obviously, they just couldn't get enough points on the board to win this one. But I think they're another team that's going to be just fine. They have the defense, and of course it hurts having Mitchell out for a couple of months here, but Jeff Wilson Jr. looks competent. I think he'll step in just fine. I think the Niners, will figure this one out. But I think as we've seen with Jimmy G, sure, it's great that they have him to step in for Trey Lance, but I think there is a ceiling, a limit of how far he can actually take you.
Do you think he's going to come back from giving up that safety? Stepping out of bounds. I mean, that's like butt fumble-esque.
Yeah, Orlovsky was riled because he was, he's the one who did that last with the Lions back in the winless season.
Orlovsky sucks, dude.
But remember, we were just talking about this. Wait, were you here actually when we were talking about that or no?
No, probably last Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, we did bring that up, but listen, I mean, I don't know. I think. Tell me I'm wrong, and I know
you're wrong.
It's like. You're paid millions of dollars to play a game. You got to know where you are. And so, it is tough when you're backed up there. I mean, like someone does it. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think we do overreact to that a little bit. I think it can't happen. I know. Well, you're pro. It can't happen, but like for it to happen once and then never happen again, I think everybody just relax. That's how I feel. Well, I think Jimmy G is going to be just fine. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe if it wasn't a 1-point game, they wouldn't be as pissed off about it. But I mean, dude.
Yeah, but that's why they pinned him. That's why they pinned him deep. So you got to give hats off to the Broncos special teams. They were constantly, juggling field position all night, and then they stop them there, backed up in their own side of the field. So that was impressive stuff. How about the start Lamar Jackson's off to, Tony? The Ravens 37-26 over Mac Jones and the Patriots here, and he was pretty hobbled after the game. So who knows, how long he'll be out for.
Mac Jones?
Yeah. Really could barely walk off the field. And Lamar Jackson just carved up the Patriots here. And I have to say, I had the Ravens here, but Belichick with Jackson and some of the, deficiencies Jackson's had in his passing game in the past, I feel like are gone. I mean, you look at it, Tony.
Seems like it, right?
Every game he's thrown for 4 touchdowns already. And he ran for 100 yards on the ground, including a 38-yard run, a rushing touchdown. So 5 total touchdowns. He hit Mark Andrews for 2 touchdowns and also 8 receptions, 89 yards. Threw another one to Duvernay, but I feel like he's such a game changer. And everybody's, and I know it's early in the year, but they're already making the comparison with Aaron Judge, Jackson betting on himself going into free agency. So I think the concerns that I once had about Jackson are no longer. And I think, this is the start of potentially being able to elevate his team into a Super Bowl, because it's just like you could have the best defense in the world, but if this guy is going to be able to throw through the air like the way that he is, and then is that threat on the ground, I mean, you can't be 2 places at one time.
Right, exactly. And I mean, we've seen quarterbacks before who have just really, come in and aren't really that great. They have issues with, obviously they have strong points as well, but then, they develop those kind of different types of talents that they have that they aren't as good at over a few years in the league. I mean, I think Josh Allen's probably a perfect example about that. I mean, he came in, he couldn't throw, and now what? Now Josh Allen, he can throw, he can run. Obviously, his running style is a little different from Lamar's, but it's pretty, pretty mirrored, I guess, at that point. So yeah, obviously you have to see that from Jackson, and then I mean, dude, 5 touchdowns. I mean, jeez.
I mean, no, really though, because I
literally a game changer. Like
just even 1 year ago, I would say to anybody, time and time again, you can't win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. You have to win. You have to be able to throw, and he's shown us in these few games that he can throw. So you got to give props to him. Evolution before our eyes. As the Ravens moved to 2-1. The Eagles moved to 3-0, 24-8 over the Commanders. And they scored 24 points in the second quarter. Don't score the rest of the game, but it doesn't matter. Their defense steps up, sacking Carson Wentz 9 times. And you look at Jalen Hurts, efficient through the air, 340 yards, 3 scores. Including 8 receptions, 169 for Devonta Smith. So he's really came on strong after being shut out in week 1. And then he also did find A.J. Brown for a touchdown, 5 receptions, 85 yards. The run game wasn't great, but the defense was, the aerial game was. And I'm pretty impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's like, here we go again. Jalen Hurts, not a carbon copy of Lamar Jackson at all. But just the fact that he's another guy, can he step in the pocket, make these throws, not just rely on chunk run plays. And he's showing us in the early going that he can also stand in the pocket and make those plays. So very impressed with what the Eagles are doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up running away with this division. I mean, we'll see what happens with Dallas. We'll see if they can beat the Giants tonight. And we'll see, how Dallas looks once that gets back. But a lot of time between now and then. But the Eagles are definitely a sleeper team in my eyes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're 3-0 right now.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have guessed that.
Those receivers, I mean, that's one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. So you love to see that for them. We saw the Panthers get off the schneid here, 22-14 over the Saints. And Jameis Winston, struggling with that back injury. But he did throw for 353 and a late touchdown, but not enough as the Panthers break that 9-game losing streak they had going into the game. Baker, though, another pedestrian effort, Tony. 170 yards, only 12 of 25, a touchdown, sacked 3 times. But fortunately for them, the defense stepped up. Christian McCaffrey, 25 carries, 108 yards, did enough. And then you had Laviska Shenault with a 67-yard touchdown, that really opened up the game for Carolina. They only get to Winston once, but they forced 2 interceptions. And Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, and Chris Olave all leave this game with injuries. And Jarvis Landry, actually, not Traquan Smith, but nevertheless here, Tony, is it too early to say, with Winston nursing these injuries that probably won't heal fully till after the season, is it too early to panic if you're the New Orleans Saints, or do you think they got time here to turn this around?
I mean, when you think about these injuries, if they do linger, I feel like, panic button right now.
Yeah,
because I mean, who do you have behind Jameson?
Yeah, I mean Taysom Hill. Gadget player. But
yeah,
I think it's just one of those things. I mean, the difference in the season, and both the Saints and the Panthers find themselves in this position. When you're 1-2, the difference of getting to 2-2 versus going to 1-3 really changes the trajectory of your season. So it'll be interesting to see if the Panthers, can build off this one. How about, and I know he's obviously, banged up with the ribs and, gutted through this, but how about the Jags blowing out the Chargers 38-10? Trevor Lawrence with arguably his best game as a pro, 262 through the air, 3 scores, finding 3 different receivers, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones. And you also got 151 yards on the ground, mainly from James Robinson, who had a rushing touchdown, and Travis Etienne, who we saw improve after a rough first game.
Which is nice.
Are you impressed with Jacksonville? I mean, you think it's a changing of the tone here? You're bringing a Super Bowl winning coach and Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence going to his second year after a disappointing rookie year.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I know you mentioned, Herbert was struggling with a rib injury, right?
Yes.
Still threw for 300 yards. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. Obviously he did a good job with dealing with it. But I mean, this is, Trevor Lawrence, like you mentioned, his best game as a pro, pretty decisively, I would say. And it seems like he's leading a team to like a pretty significant victory for them to, keep it at 2-1. You mentioned if they go 1-2, I mean, even that could change the trajectory of their season as well. And especially with the questionable, performances by Lawrence, everything like that. But at this point, I mean, yeah, it seems like he's rallying a team behind him. They're buying into what he's kind of selling here. And because of that, I mean, hey, they scored 38 points against the Chargers and led them to a victory, held the Chargers to 10 points. I mean, that's a really impressive victory for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another impressive victory here. You saw the Rams 20-12 over the Cardinals. So the Rams, after that disappointing performance on opening night, do rebound here 20-12. And, do this despite, no passing touchdowns. You had 2 on the ground, 1 from Cooper Kupp, 1 from Cam Akers. Aaron Donald gets his 100th career sack. So we're seeing, Stafford showing some grit here, obviously not 100% healthy with the elbow, but he did throw for 249. Didn't turn the ball over, only was sacked once. And then you look at the Cardinals here, no touchdowns, 4 field goals, similar to the Jets' offensive performance here. Kyler Murray threw for 314, but on 58 attempts, only 5.4 yards per attempt. And while he did have a good rapport with Hollywood Brown, 14 catches, 140 yards, no touchdowns is no touchdowns. And that's the ask the question. I mean, do you smell a rat here in Arizona?
Yeah, dude. Pack it up.
You think by the end of the year, Kingsbury gone, or?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you've lost too many. I think it's 7 out of 9 going back to last season. So the time is now, and I know you got to wait a few more games for Hopkins to come back, but you should be able to be more competitive, more sustainable on offense, and they're just not showing that right now. The Falcons pick up their first win of the season over the Seattle Seahawks, 27-23. So Arthur Smith gets him and the Falcons get their first win of the year here. And I think the Seahawks over the last 2 games after that surprising week 1 victory, over the Broncos have shown the team that they are. And I know that you look at the numbers, 325, 2 touchdowns and a pick for Geno. The running game, solid 112 yards. And you got Metcalf and Lockett the ball to an extent. But I just think they showed, they're not going to compete. And not to say that the Falcons are either. But I think, they feel pretty good about getting off the schneid here. And, Cordarrelle Patterson, a guy that I've thought is one of the more underrated player in the league, having 141 yards and 17 carries, including a 40-yard run and a touchdown. Mariota, 2 touchdowns, 1 through the air, 1 rushing. So I think, just nice for the Falcons to get a victory here. But I would imagine at some point you think they make the change from Mariota to rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder, or it just depends on wins and losses. If they're around 500, they'll stay the course.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I feel like Mariota, he brings some things to the table here.
Yeah. No, I've always liked him. It's just the fact that they're in a rebuilding situation. I feel like Mariota is better suited for a team that's trying to sneak into the playoffs. And I don't know if the Falcons are really trying to do that this year. I mean, obviously, you'll take as many wins as you can get, and they do have some good young players, but it's just kind of interesting to see how all of that, unfolds. And I guess they have a shot here. I mean, we know the Saints are struggling, as well as the Panthers. So I guess you never know. And then, the Bucs coming off a disappointing loss, 14-12. They don't get that 2-point conversion at the end. You mentioned, Brady getting a little tight about that delayed game penalty where they had a clear conversion with Leonard Fournette. Do you believe, there's trouble brewing here in Tampa? I know it's their first loss of the season, but the offense has been tough to come by through these first 3 games. I think they scored 20 points in their first 2 and then 12 here.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough, dude. I mean, I don't think there's much panic, honestly. I mean, you mentioned the first loss of the season. They sort of have things to work on. And I mean, I don't know. I think this loss, I mean, you really only have at one play, I suppose, to really blame for it. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you had the game in your hands. You would have, I think it probably would have been, you've been up by, well, you would have tied the game rather, forced into overtime. And at that point, I mean, if you're Tampa Bay, for whatever reason, I guess, although they weren't scoring a lot, that last drive, I mean, Brady was rolling. I mean, it was a 2-minute drill for him,
Right.
And there was really nothing that Green Bay, it seemed that they could have done to stop him because he was just rolling down that field, easily scored the touchdown. Unfortunately, could not convert the 2-pointer to force the overtime. And I mean, at that point, I mean, it's kind of Brady's fault. I mean, one, like, why are you taking so long? And then at that point, like, it seemed like he was calling for the ball, but obviously the center just didn't hear him.
Yeah.
Because he was definitely calling for it. And then, like, finally clapped and at 0, hiked the ball, and they called the play dead, basically. So.
And I mean, I know you can't underestimate too the fact that he's missing Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Julio Jones.
Right.
So you'd imagine he'd have it a little easier when they're back. But like Evans obviously played the first 2 games, and Jones played the first one. So it's just that we haven't seen them explode on offense just yet.
Right.
I mean, maybe that is coming. And obviously, we mentioned the rest of the teams in division are only 1-2. But they do have a tough home game next week, Sunday Night Football. Your guy, Chris Collinsworth, Mike Tirico against the Chiefs. So I'm just saying, I mean, you think about it, start out 2-0, lose this game to the Packers. Then you follow the Chiefs and you're only 2-2. With a decent schedule after that, Falcons, Steelers, Panthers. But I think, there's definitely some pressure on Brady, and, he doesn't want to win games, 12-10 or, you know what I mean? He wants to put up some points. So be interesting to see that once he has his full complement of receivers, if they're able to do that.
as my mother comes in. Good morning, she says. Brady definitely waited too long. I was thinking about you, Brian, the whole time.
There you
I
go.
really
So
was.
how the mighty have fallen.
divorce is happening.
The divorce is happening.
Hasn't happened yet, though. You
Uh,
promised
It
papers
probably
being
already
signed.
did. It probably
You
already
said
did.
a separation by Monday.
Anyway, Tony, so it was an exciting Sunday for sure. One more game left in week 3 here. We have the Giants hosting the Cowboys, and you look at two teams here dealing with some injuries, and obviously the Cowboys still without Dak. So Cooper Rush gets his second start of the season, third start of his career, 2-0 up to this point.
Confident in him?
He's looked good. He has looked competent. He has stood in the pocket. A nice win over the Bengals last week. And I feel like the Giants, have gotten a tad bit lucky here, bouncing their way. So I think this is a big test. I think the Cowboys defense, is ferocious here. Not a lot of scoring expected in this one. A very low total of 39.5, as well as a spread here, of only 1 point. Giants, getting the point for being at home. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau will make his NFL debut. That was the first round pick out of Oregon, the pass rusher. So that should be big for them, but they will be without Leonard Williams, which is tough. As we've done with these standalone games, Tony, I know it's a 1 point spread, but we have to do it. So I know where you're going to go, but I'll ask you anyway. 1 point spread here. You have the pick of the litter. I'll take the opposite side. What do you got?
Give me the Giants, dude.
I'm happy that you said that.
I'm happy too, because I know Stephen A. Smith went with the Cowboys, and he doesn't know shit about anything.
And he hates the Cowboys.
And he hates the Cowboys too. I don't know. He did whatever theatrics Stephen A. is trying to put on. Whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. Giants are winning this game. Cowboys, you mentioned, struggling with injuries. Dak out. Jerry Jones not happy about it. And I just feel like, people have been questioning Saquon, obviously, in terms of, how long he could make it this season with, putting out some formidable games here. I think he's going to continue to roll over Dallas, to be honest. I think he's going to be a big part of their offense tonight. I'm thinking, 2 TDs for him, maybe rushing for, 180 yards, 200 yards around there. Maybe. Why not, dude?
Wow. We're just giving out yards like candy, huh?
Yeah. I think he's going to be rolling. It's going to be all over, dude. Telling you. Because Daniel Jones, I feel like, he's good.
Is he? I feel like you feel some pressure here. Your mother watching, Giants fan.
Dude, he's good, I guess. But is he really going to throw
good, I guess.
for 3 touchdowns,
I think
like
that says
200
it all right
yards?
there.
I mean, I feel like most of their offense is coming from Saquon tonight.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really successful.
And what did you say the score?
Oh, I don't give it a score. I'll say 27-10.
Okay. So I look at this and I think the Cowboys, the whole thing here, you want to control the tempo, establish the run early, and obviously get in Jones's face as well. So I think they'll do that. I could see this as a game where, maybe Zeke rushes for 80 yards.
Zeke
Tony
sucks,
Pollard rushes for 70. Maybe they get 2 rushing touchdowns. Cooper Rush, nothing crazy, but maybe, 220 through the air. And a touchdown to Dalton Schultz. And I'm going to say the Cowboys here, 21-7 over the Giants. And the hysteria that has been running through the Meadowlands subsides for a week as Daniel Jones and this Giants team shows their true colors. And the Cowboys avoid a disaster here and get off to a 2-1 start despite, missing their starting quarterback these last 2 games. And, obviously, I think it should be a tight game. We'll see. And also, just before we switch over here to baseball, just want to update everybody on the picks. So I went 3-1, just falling with the Chargers, but hitting on the Yankees, the Rams, and the Ravens. And Tony goes 1-3, hitting on the Mets, but getting swept out of the NFL, the Bucks, the Raiders, and the Saints, all losing to fall to 20-23. About a week and a half left here, but he will give it his best shot. And I'm sorry, I was reading the last week in terms of the numbers, but I'm 25-18-1. You're 21-26. So
Okay, cool.
Going for it all here and rooting for the Giants tonight. But I know you're excited to talk about it, so let's just go to the world of Major League Baseball.
2-2, he got him swinging. The back-to-back strikeouts for Robbie Ray. There's damage right there. Shohei, way, Cy-Yo, nada, where did that land? Stuck to Chapman, who leaps up and grabs it.
Story spins and fires. Out at first.
There it goes. See ya. Home run, Aaron Judge.
All right, Tony. So the Yankees don't get that home run from Aaron Judge this weekend, but they do beat the Red Sox in all 3 games. And, we'll start on Friday. This was the Apple TV Plus game. A lot of controversy there. Oh, Judge is going to hit it. We got, these people on the call that we're not familiar with. A lot of outrage there. But we don't get that. But we do get a Yankee win, and we do get a Garrett Cole ejection as well as Aaron Boone. And Cole had been cruising along, into the 6th inning here. And the Yankees, were up at that point, 4-1, courtesy of an Aaron Hicks homer, as well as a single and a Gleyber Torres double. The one blemish up to that point was a Tommy Pham home run in the first. But so he runs into a little trouble in the 6th inning. And it all, just to kind of, lay the land for you. So Chang struck out swinging. You had Kiki Hernandez double to right, Devers walk. So you got first and second, 1 out. Tommy Pham strikes out. And then Alex Verdugo comes to the plate. And Cole, you get into a 4-pitch at bat with Verdugo here. A 2-2 or a 2-1 count, so or a 1-2 count. My apologies, but he's ahead in the count here, and he goes with the fastball 99, definitely low, just out of the zone. And he really felt like he should have been a strike. Kind of makes a reaction. Kind of started to walk off. He doesn't get the call, and then next pitch on that 4-seamer, he elevates it a little more, and Alex Verdugo goes deep to tie the game at 4. He gets JD Martinez to strike out on the next batter. But when walking off the mound, really like drops an F-bomb to the umpire, flips out, gets instantly ejected. Boone comes out, same case for him. And, maybe he wanted the team to rally around that. But I think it was more, he's just frustrated that once again, the long balls doing him in. You look at his ERA now, 3.49. I believe a career high 31 home runs allowed as well. And luckily for the Yankees, Harrison Bader scores on a Jose Trevino single in the 8th. Loaiza gets the job done. 2 scoreless innings out of the pen to pick up the 2nd victory of the year. But Cole, here we go. The homers, the Red Sox, and just not exactly what all of us Yankee fans had in mind, off that 9-year, $324 million contract. What do you make of the situation? I mean, obviously, even though it's close, if the ball is outside of the zone, obviously the umpire's right. It was a ball.
Right.
Do you feel like it's kind of ridiculous for him to yell that out and get ejected?
It is. It's stupid.
I just don't know what it is with Cole. Like, I really don't think it's, as Michael peers in here, but I really don't know if it's a mental weakness, if it's a bad execution. Like, why does he continue to give up so many long balls?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe his lack of success during, starts at Fenway, I feel like it's a mental thing. But in terms of the long ball, I mean, it's got to be a mechanical thing, right? I mean, he's just leaving balls over the middle of the plate.
Or not even mechanical, but he's just not locating his fastball well in the crucial spots of the count.
Right, exactly. Which at that point, but I do think like it is a mechanical issue. Maybe I don't think it like just because that it's just in those situations, not just necessarily mental. He's doing something different or wrong or something that's not able to locate those fastballs. Or, certain breaking balls aren't moving as much as he expects it to move. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's, it's not a great look for him because like you mentioned, it's Yankee fans didn't exactly get what they expected out of him. And on top of that, it seems that he's, getting pretty angry about it too.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think at the same time, I mean, it's really all about this postseason. If he dominates and pitches them into a World Series, I think all is well and forgotten.
Right.
But if he gets shellacked, first start, doesn't make it through the third inning, gives up 6 runs, or gets blown out in an elimination game, then we're gonna have a serious problem on our hands. So there's a lot of pressure on Garrett Cole, and I think you could argue he has the most pressure out of any pitcher in the major leagues going into this postseason.
Yeah, probably.
So that'll be interesting to see how it performs. But like I said, luckily they got that win 5-4 on Friday. On to Saturday, 7-5 over the Sox. You had Domingo Germán getting the start in this one against Nick Pivetta. Germán went 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 3 runs, 5 Ks, 2 home runs allowed to Cassis and McGuire. But the Yankees, got a home run out of Glaber in the first, his 24th. So the theme with him, he's really kind of turned it on here. You had an IKF single in the second to cut the deficit to 3-2. Then Oswaldo Cabrera, who's really stepped up. We've talked about his great defensive plays. Now the bat seems to be coming along here. Hits his 3rd home run of the season, 2-run shot to make it 4-3. Donaldson reaches on an error to score Higgy to make it 5-3. But Zach Britton, making his season debut, gets 1 out, gives up a hit, and walks 3, including walking in a run to make it 5-4.
Not a good look.
And then Licky comes in, gives up a single to make it 5-5. And then we were on to the bottom of the 7th. Hicks gets on, and Anthony Rizzo, with his 32nd home run of the season, makes it 7-5. And Clark Schmidt and Scott Efros close out the final 2 innings to make it 7-5. So the Yankees take the 3rd game of this 4-game series. And then we were on to Sunday Night Baseball. And, in this one, we had a pitching matchup of Nestor Cortez and Brian Bayo. And unfortunately, obviously I was there.
Unfortunately, you were there.
Didn't complete the statement, Tony, but we don't get a full game. We only get 6 innings because of some unforeseen weather. We don't get an Aaron Judge home run, but we do get 2 runs, 6 hits out of the Yankees. We get Nestor Cortez, 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Technically a complete game shutout because of the rain, but his 11th victory of the season. I believe he has the lowest ERA this century for a Yankee pitcher through this many innings in a season. So just shows how well, he's pitched this year. Jose Trevino with an RBI here. And also the Yankees scoring on an error as well on a Hicks pop-up that I believe it was Ref Snyder just dropped. It was just right in front of him. It just dropped. It would have ended the inning. I couldn't believe it. It was right before the Tarps came on the field. But the Yankees 2-0 here, because obviously after the weather, they call it. And, I know Judge doesn't hit the home run, but he does get a hit here. And he'll try to get, number 61 and 62 in Toronto. But nevertheless, Tony, a great weekend here. 2-0. You got to win these games. Nestor looks great after coming back from that hamstring injury. So he's primed to break out here in the postseason. And your magic number is 2, meaning with this series in Toronto, you win 1 game and the Yankees will be American League East champions. So really, if you think about where we were 3 weeks ago, everything coming together quite nicely for the Yankees. And they have, guys to look forward to that are coming back. If you think about DJ LeMahieu, you think about Matt Carpenter. So the stars are aligning for the New York Yankees, and they look to wrap up that division title tonight.
Pretty confident?
Very confident. Very confident.
You think Judge hits it?
Judge hits it. Hits both of them. Because you notice when he has these streaks, I think it's, 5 games or whatever it is, 4 games, 5 games, where he doesn't, or I guess it is 4 games because he hit one the previous series, the last game. But anyway, he has a huge game. So I think that will happen tonight. And I'm pumped to see, too, what Luis Severino brings to the table. Great start when I saw him against Pittsburgh on Tuesday. And, obviously a lot tougher Blue Jays lineup here, a road start. Kevin Gausman, who's had a great year, but then struggled a little bit of recent. It'd be interesting to see how he pitches. So that'll be a fun one. But, here we are, end of September. we're all looking forward to postseason baseball, just like another team across town is the New York Mets, Tony.
That is correct. Excuse me. They had a pretty decent weekend, I would say, starting with Friday. They were in Oakland, and it was pretty funny because I was watching yesterday's game with my mom, and she was surprised at how few people were in the stadium.
Oh, really?
She's like, "Oh, I can't even hear anyone. It sounds like there's no one there," she says.
Wow.
Anyway, so they took 2 out of 3 in Oakland Friday. Mets won 9-2. Scoring started pretty early with them. Rookie Mark Vientos is seeming like he's kind of coming along here. He's been brought up primarily as a DH. He was DHing on Friday. He went 2 for 3 with a scoring start with him. Second inning, RBI single. Alonso was able to score. And then in that same inning, Nimmo came up after him. McNeil and Ruff ended up scoring on a 2 RBI single. And then when it rained, it pours, as they say. Fifth inning here, Escobar hits a big dinger. I feel like I haven't seen one out of him in a little while. And then Vientos again in the 5th inning. An RBI double. He went 2 for 3, looking very comfortable at the plate now, having a decent bat, which is great. I mean, he's 22 years old. He's going to be a big future of the Mets, and it's great to see how he finally kind of came along here. I was mentioning how they brought him up just to be DH. It's pretty hard to get some momentum going when, sometimes you make a nice defensive play, it translates to a good at bat,
right,
sort of thing. So it took him a little while to get used to hitting against those major league pitchers. But like I said, it's coming along here. 7th inning, McNeil, who's been continuing this absolute hitting clinic, it seems, recently and this season. Got an RBI double to put the Mets up 9-0 at that point. Which obviously pretty much solidified their victory. Chris Bassett, we mentioned, the return,
emotional return.
Very
Did
emotional.
They do a tribute video?
I don't think so.
Okay, no, wow,
no,
probably cheap there. They're not making any money on tickets.
Yeah, definitely not. There was some people who clapped for him. They were happy to see him, I suppose.
Right.
They probably wasn't so happy to see that he went 8 innings, giving up only 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk. Over the 91 pitches, he pitched really well. Surprisingly, honestly, to go 8 innings for him, I feel like you rarely see that this season out of him, and to only give up 2 earned runs. I think 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th too. Later in the game, he was absolutely dealing his first 6 innings. He was hard to hit against. Obviously, it was Oakland, but nonetheless, because of that performance, he led the Mets to a nice 9-2 victory. Now come on to Saturday. As Barnes is starting to get a smile on his face.
Ken Waldichuk, I believe, was on the hill or no?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Waldichuk was on the hill.
Got popped in the first.
He got totally popped in the first. What looked to be something very ugly.
Minced meat.
For the A's here, as he gave 3 runs in the first, 1 in the second. Unfortunately, DeGrom kind of got popped in the first, as you say. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning, and he was another pitcher here, another ace pitcher from New York, getting into some arguments here with Angel Hernandez, arguing with him about the strike zone. I don't know. It was I would say it was kind of along the lines of what Garrett Cole was talking about. I think the ball's right on the outside, sort of deal. Like, and just calling it a ball. It's arguably, and in the end of it, obviously, Hernandez has a certain reputation in the league, right, for having some bonehead calls. But even DeGrom admitted afterwards, Hernandez, was right. It was his fault as to why DeGrom wasn't doing well, taking accountability for himself and just kind of chalking it up to a poor start for him, which obviously you almost never see. DeGrom's final line was 4 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, and only 5 strikeouts here. He was followed up by Trevor Williams, who gave up a run. Joey Rodriguez gave up a run, didn't even last an inning. Trevor May gave up 2 runs late. Ottavino gave up another run. So obviously, bullpen, not really helping out DeGrom's poor start at all. Just kind of one of those tough games where obviously, nothing was really working for DeGrom. He was very frustrated. And although the Mets went off to a hot start, they were scoreless after the second inning. So they ended up losing here 10-4. and what looked like something they could come back on. But again, when the bullpen gave up, a run in the 5th, run in the 6th, run in the 7th, 2 more in the 8th, that type of snowballing, it's kind of hard to come back from. So a tough loss there. But then you look at Sunday here, kind of Mets back in the saddle. They win 13-4. And, the big storyline here has got to be Pete Alonso. For I think a couple games, he was tied for the most RBIs by a Met in a single season, which I believe was 124, which was actually from 2 players, Mike Piazza and David Wright. So obviously 2 pretty legendary Mets here. Alonso surpasses them in a pretty dramatic fashion. I think it was a 2-run homer, I think, to get his 125th and 126th RBI. So he is now leading the Mets in RBIs a single season, and I believe he is only one of 2 people in the league to hold the team's record for most home runs and RBIs, which is him and Giancarlo Stanton for Miami, actually. So that's pretty impressive. You surprised there, Brian?
No. It just made me think with Miami. They did just announce yesterday Don Mattingly
won't
not
be returning. I know.
So there's some talk. Maybe he finds his way somehow, some way to the Yankee organization. Obviously Donnie Baseball, always a fan favorite.
Would you be excited for that?
As a hitting coach, I think it'd be great.
Really? Manager, no?
Manager, he probably would be better than Boone, but obviously, I'm expecting a World Series title this year. So, tough to remove the manager after one of those,
It'd be pretty badass if they did, though.
It would, but I don't foresee.
Anyway, dude, so the scoring for the Mets started pretty early again. Second inning, you had an RBI single from Naquin in the second. Third inning, RBI single from Escobar. Fourth inning, you have a nice RBI double. I think 2 RBI double from Lindor, and then Alonso homered right after him. That was the record-breaking home run, 451 feet to almost dead center here. And then again, 8th inning, Lindor reaches on a single. I think Nito scores. Yeah, Nito scored. And then Alonso, a 2 RBI double for Alonso. Again, just raking in those RBIs, bumping up that record. Escobar, another ground out RBI. Guillorme, ground out RBI. So everyone was dealing in terms of offensively. They were sharing the wealth there. And then Scherzer was on the mound. He went 6 innings, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 Ks, only 4 hits. It was a classic Scherzer. He was absolutely dialed in. He had this rising fastball action. It was actually really impressive. A lot of batters were not only early on it, but just underneath that fastball. I was just kind of seemingly gaining speed as it was getting closer to home plate. His fastball was on it. He threw 91 pitches, looked great. Great to see him healthy and not really complaining about any, oblique injuries or side tightness or anything like that. As we're kind of going into the postseason here. Ottavino came in on back-to-back days, mind you. 1 inning, no hits, no runs, no walks, 2 Ks. So it was nice to see him to go back-to-back. Drew Smith, again, came in for an inning, looked good. Seth Lugo, though, came in for the last inning, gave up 3 runs, late in the game. Got people thinking the A's could rally here. But nonetheless, ended up getting the victory here. Mets win 13-4, take 2 from the A's in Oakland. I think they're 8-2 in their last 10 games, something like that. The lead for the division is a game and a half now, as I think over the weekend the Braves also clinched playoff berth as well.
Yes.
So things are still tight here in the divisional race, but the Mets are looking good. And we mentioned, although the schedule is busy for them, they are off today, which is nice.
Yeah. And then you got Atlanta and Washington. One thing I was looking at, just like the team stats for the Mets, and one thing that a couple of things that I'm impressed with actually. The first, you mentioned Ottavino, coming off a very tough finish to the season in Boston last year, 2.18 ERA. Leads the team with 19 holds, so he's been a reliable setup guy for the Mets. And just the fact that the Mets sit here first place, 97 victories, and their top 3 innings in terms of starters are coming from Bassett, Walker, and Carrasco. So the fact that Scherzer and DeGrom haven't even combined for 200 innings and they're doing that well, I think that says something about what type of year that they've had. You wouldn't have thought that if I told you that going into the year that Chris Bassett would lead the team in innings pitched.
No.
You wouldn't think they would be in first place.
Certainly not.
So it'd be interesting to see, how they perform in Miami. I think tomorrow it's going to be Carrasco versus Pablo Lopez, who almost ended up, with the Yankees, of course. So, but for now, they'll be off, and we'll see what happens with the Braves tonight. So a very light schedule for the picks tonight. So we do have enough to go 2 apiece.
Wow.
So, obviously you can, mark me down for the New York Yankees.
Oh, you're going first.
Well, come on. Were you really going to take the Yankees?
I don't know. I mean, it was an option for me.
It's just
maybe I want one of the Blue Jays.
All right. You know what? I guess.
No. You take the Yankees. I'll take the Braves game 1. I know I would like to see them lose, but Washington. Whatever.
Yeah. And just quickly, just in terms of the, I mentioned Gausman, Severino. I do think, somewhat of a pitcher's due early. I could see, 4 scoreless innings. Judge, maybe top of the 5th, leads it off with a solo shot to make it 1-0, and obviously tying Maris at 61.
Wow.
And then, I think, Severino will end up going 6, 8 strikeouts. He might allow a solo shot to Vladdy. But then I think we're going to see Oswaldo Cabrera go 3 for 4, including a 7th inning 2-run homer. And I want to say the Yankees 4-2 over the Toronto Blue Jays. They are the American League East division champions once again.
Well, I guess I'll go over my first pick with the Braves here. I understand the Braves, I think, are actually 7-3 in their last 10 games. And the Mets were 8-2. But we saw the Braves kind of, I guess, struggle. Last week, I should say. I think a game against Washington, or they had a couple of losses that definitely were not foreseen, I suppose. Yeah, they lost 2 to Philly, 1 to Washington. They actually split the series with Philly. But I feel like at this point, I understand. Come on, it's the Braves here. I don't think they're going to lose again to Washington. It's simple stuff. Washington actually just coming off a win against Miami, but still losing 2 out of 3 to Miami, and again before that losing 2 out of 3 to Atlanta. Like I said, big surprise for Atlanta to lose 1 game. As you look at their 95 win season. Bryce Elder on the mound for them. Young dude out of their farm system, obviously trying to test him out. Has shown some bright spots, but still kind of, I feel like, coming into his own. And I feel like he's really going to settle in here against Washington. Washington will score a lot. Braves, I'll give it 4-1.
Yeah. You like them to keep rolling. And I am going to take the Baltimore Orioles. We talked about the Red Sox obviously getting swept by the Yankees, and Connor Siebold on the mound for them tonight. 0-3, 10.47 ERA, going against Jordan Lyles, who some starts, you would think he was a Cy Young Award winner. Other starts, he looks like Patrick Corbin. But I think against a Red Sox team that has packed it in, 72-80 here, the Orioles, pretty much out of it for this final wild card spot, but giving it everything they have. I could see Lyles striking out 9 over 6 innings, giving up 1 run, maybe a Rafi Devers solo shot. And I think the Orioles will get over Siebold early. I could see Cedric Mullins, maybe having 4 hits, including a home run. And I want to say the Orioles here against that weak Boston pitching, with a 6-1 road victory at Fenway.
Well,
Pirates Reds, buddy. That's all we got.
Leave me with a good game here, bud.
That's why I went first.
Obviously, I'm now seeing why you went first. You can take the good games. Anyway, dude, so I guess I'll take the Reds.
Yeah, I think they are the better team.
I think even though they have the better record, I believe they have they have Pittsburgh. ESPN has Pittsburgh winning this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in terms of the pitching stand-up, Contreras just got popped by the Yankees, right? It was like a 14-3.
Yeah, that was the
win.
game. Yeah, I was at 14-2.
14-2.
Yeah.
And then before that, I mean, I think he had a decent start actually against the Reds earlier in the month, but it was still like 4 innings, 3 earned runs. Like that's like his best start. Excuse me. And I feel like Chase Anderson. I know, dude, it's tough over here, man. Fall. You just look at his last few starts. He's 3-2 in his last 5 starts here. Giving you 5 innings seemingly in each one. The only one he didn't give you 5 innings in, actually there's 2 of them, but one of them was Colorado, 2 2/3. I guess maybe he left with an injury, maybe, because it was no earned runs, 4 walks, 4 Ks in those 2 2/3, and Cincinnati actually won 10-0 here. So I think in terms of winning, you're better off going with him. I don't know, and I feel like even though his ERA is a little bit higher, I just got this feeling that Cincinnati's going to really just pummel Contreras. I know they don't have a lot of batters, but I just feel like, I don't know, man. I think ESPN has this run wrong. I'll say give me Cincinnati here. I'm going to say 7-3.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I think that's a good selection. We'll see.
Yeah, dude.
We'll see if you can pick up a couple games here. I know, obviously, short slate, but of course, you are hoping for a New York Giants victory,
which will happen.
How many yards for Jones?
Throwing?
Yeah.
185.
So pedestrian.
Well, yeah, he's a pedestrian, I don't know. I just feel like he's not really gonna have 185, maybe with like 2 4-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, but
right.
Hey, I mean, if they get off to a 3-0 start,
hey man,
not much to complain about there.
Yeah, dude.
So we'll see. As we wrap up, week 3 here, and then it'll be on to week 4 with that Thursday night game in Cincinnati, which should be a good one against the Miami Dolphins. Coming off that big victory against the Bills, and then also I just wanted to add the U.S. of course, as me and you predicted, did win the President's Cup over the weekend at Qual Hollow. Xander Schauffele clinching it for the Americans with a 1-up victory over Corey Connors.
Love to see it.
To get them to that 15.5 threshold to win the President's Cup, I believe, for the 9th straight time. And then, then we're going to be on to the start of the PGA Tour season. I know we had the one tournament, the 40 net, and then obviously the President's Cup. But, this week, I believe starting on Thursday, we will have the Sanderson Farms Championship in Jackson, Mississippi. And then that's followed by the Shriners in Las Vegas, the Zozo in Japan, and the CJ Cup in South Carolina before we go to Bermuda at Port Royal.
We're going to Bermuda, dude?
We are going to Bermuda.
Chokery, by the way, commenting, we are cheering for Qua. Typo, or is that like a thing you guys got going on?
Cheering for... I'm actually confused about that one. I hope Chokery can let us know.
For Qua. I kind of like it.
Brian, you need to plan a trip to play in the Pinehurst golf course. That would be great. And I believe the U.S. Open.
Why did you get comments before I do?
Be there.
Brian, you need to plan a trip to play in the Pinehurst golf course.
No, but
he goes, I meant Giants.
No, but let's get a foursome going. Me, you, Chokery, and Prefer, Pinehurst.
Oh my God, dude.
That would be something.
Prefer's out there somewhere. By the way, Prefer had some comments I wasn't able to get to because Brian was in the roll there.
But he says rooting for the Giants.
Yeah, Giants.
Obviously my dad, big Giants fan, so I'm sure he'd like to see the 3-0 start. And the Cowboys, a lot of
divisional
people can get the Cowboys fans can be wearing on people.
You watching tonight?
I'll tune in. I just don't know, it will be anything crazy, Tony. I think the Yankee game might be a little more appealing.
I don't think so.
But I know you wanted to get to Prefer, but thank you, of course, Chokery, one of our number 1 fans out there. So we always appreciate his insight.
Anyway, so Prefer with some stuff going on here. I don't know if you saw this. I did see this. Man distracts from Aaron Judge chasing On the Apple TV Plus game from last Friday, a man with a blue T-shirt sitting behind home plate, acting very strange for 3 hours. Did you see the creeper?
Yeah, it's some promotional thing. They're doing it at all the stadiums where I think it's some movie or series. So the person just smiles.
Oh, it's the smile thing. It's for the movie.
What is the movie?
So the movie. Oh God,
Were you guys just talking about it on Screen Time or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I will tomorrow.
Okay.
So it's like it's I guess it's kind of scary, but it's like a horror movie where like this demon like takes
smiles and kills
over.
people?
It takes over you, so it takes you over, and then you're just like smiling, and you like just like weird ominous smile, and you kill people. Like it makes you kill people.
You think the problem is with movies these days, they're running out of
ideas? Yeah.
So they just
just
go
throw anything.
ridiculous.
Especially like scary movies, because obviously a ton of scary movies come out in October for Halloween, and they don't do the same thing. So it's just ridiculous things like a fucking haunted tire or a smiling demon thing. So stupid, dude.
Well, and I just think, the thing is, I mean, at this point, we mentioned with the ideas and stuff, and we're talking scary movies. I mean, what is actually going to scare you at this point? What have you not seen on a screen? Oh, this person's coming at you, kill you. All right, yeah, we've seen that a million times. Like you know what I mean? I just think they're just running out of stuff. And I mean, if I was at the helm, I'd be able to, give some insight on some new ideas. But unfortunately, we have the people in power, and I think they're embarrassing themselves. I think the movie industry is in a little bit of trouble. I really do.
I think they'll be just fine, Brian.
Give me an all-time classic that's come out in the last five years. Go.
All-time classic?
Yeah.
Like
go.
movie?
Go.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Go.
Classic? Great one, right?
Yeah.
Who's even heard of that movie?
Dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Give me one actor, actress in it.
Ooh, no, it's like
okay.
That's
Beauty
it.
of it.
It's not famous
people.
Wait,
It's not famous people, but if it was such a good movie, how come we haven't heard of who's in it?
I can't even pronounce their names. That's why.
You can't pronounce their names. That's the reason. I'm saying. I guess that's the reason. The greatest beer run, best movie last 5 years.
That
I feel like that sounds like a chunker. No,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, dude. I think it's like I forget the premise. I think is like during the Vietnam War, and this guy decides to bring beer to the soldiers or something. I didn't even know it was out yet, to be honest, but it looked like an absolute clunker to me. Yeah. So I didn't even fucking look into it.
So I think that the common theme that we both can agree on these days, it's too I guess silly. I don't know if that's
1917. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. 1917. Great movie. Came out in the last 5 years.
1917.
Yeah, the movie 1917.
What's that about? 1917.
World War One.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fun. But
I can't. What are you trying to say? What do you got? What do you got, Michael?
Testing?
Yes.
What do we got for testing?
What about that that
The
movie
Greatest Showman?
No, Glass or whatever. That movie where he has multiple personalities. That's a good.
I don't think that was the last 5 years.
Split.
Though. Split.
I saw
That's
first
a good scary movie. Type of scary thriller. Like that's better.
I don't know though, but I guess like Michael, and I don't mean to sound just too simplistic here, but it's like, why do I just want to watch some guy just be crazy? Like,
no, I don't watch horrors.
No,
but I'm just saying
though, like why I just don't understand that.
Why do I want to watch some guy be crazy when I can just be crazy
about the Yankees?
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know, man.
That's a good horror movie, like just a crazy fanatic fan.
Dude, we can make it. And Barnes is like the killer person.
Yeah.
See,
for people.
And then for first going Top Gun.
Top Gun, that's right. The new Top Gun. Yeah, dude. What do you got, dude?
I don't know.
I didn't even see it. You didn't even see it, dude.
I don't need to see it, Tony. That's the thing. But just get me to the postseason. Get me Yankee baseball. Get me in the Bronx. Get me the roll call and get me to a parade in downtown New York City. That is what it's all about.
You'll get to the parade this year, dude. You'll go to the parade, but it won't be for the Yankees.
Oh my God!
All right, let's go. This isn't screen time here. All right.
Good kind of preview of screen time. Do we know it's on the table tomorrow?
Tomorrow, best Seinfeld episodes.
Best Seinfeld.
So we're gonna pick
episodes.
our favorite Seinfeld episodes. Talk about it. I was watching Seinfeld last night. Re-upping.
Great.
Know, on my.
I'm fresh.
Yeah. Michael just finished a series. Actually, that's why we're doing it. Finally, he finished a series.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
definitely check that out. Whether it's Michael, it's Tony, it's Manny, all great at what they do. The occasional Jay appearance every now and then. But really know how to break it down and get in depth with it. So definitely look out for that tomorrow. But Tony, other than that, anything you'd like to say on the way out here as we head into Monday night football and on to Tuesday and the Mets off, Yankees division. Maybe.
I got something.
Yeah.
I got something. Today, Knicks training camp began. Let's go, Knicks. Photos, first day of NBA training camp.
Yeah. Yes. The Knicks embark on a season here.
It's going to be a big year.
RJ
Barrett.
Hope since 2013.
Yes. RJ Barrett, quote me now, top 3 MVP finishing the season.
That will be
all-star starter in the East.
Wow.
What
do you got, Tony? One something to say here on the way out.
Mets gotta just enjoy the off day,
Enjoy the off day.
Enjoy the off day.
Rooting for the Nationals or?
Well, I picked the Braves to win.
But you care more about the Mets winning the division than winning a pick segment, no?
Wow.
I mean, it's a tight race. I mean, this thing's coming down to the wire unless we get some.
Yeah, but I have total confidence the Mets are gonna win it. So
all right. I guess we'll
come
see.
on, dude.
And then one other comment here.
Let's go, Chokery. Big
fan.
Seinfeld fan. Let's go. I like the Chinese restaurant episode.
Yeah. Nice.
Let's go.
So
we'll tune in tomorrow.
Tune in.
Yeah,
definitely check out Screen Time tomorrow, Chokery.
Everyone loves Seinfeld. If you don't, you're an idiot.
Yeah, no, I never said I didn't like Seinfeld.
No, you said you like Friends better.
I haven't really watched much of Seinfeld. But from what I've seen, it seems okay. I mean, wow. But other than that, I mean, really a lot of interaction today. We really appreciate everyone tuning in and continuing to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out the archives on the YouTube page and as well as the summer turning fall collection, downtimetv.com. Everybody enjoy the day. Enjoy the games. Let's go Yankees.
Go Giants.
And we will see you mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do.